How the internet was invented. Imagine a world with no Google, no YouTube, no instant messages. Hard to believe, but just a few decades ago, the internet didn't exist at all. It began during the Cold War, when scientists feared a nuclear strike could wipe out U.S. communications. Their solution was bold: a decentralized network where computers could keep talking, even if part of the system was destroyed. From that fear was born ARPANET in 1969. The first message sent was meant to be Logan, but the system crashed after 2 letters. The very first word in internet history was simply LO. From that tiny moment grew the greatest communications system in history, a story of vision, mistakes, hidden heroes, and breakthroughs that changed the world. The birth of the internet, from Cold War fears to a connected world. Imagine waking up one morning to find the internet gone. No messages, no YouTube or Google, no online stores, no streaming, no scrolling through your favorite social media. The silence would be deafening. Today, the internet feels as natural as breathing, but not long ago it didn't exist at all. The story of how it came to life is a tale of fear, science, and the unstoppable human desire to connect. The Cold War and the spark of an idea. In the late 1950s, the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union created a climate of fear. In 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik, the first satellite, shocking the world. Americans worried, what if the next surprise was a nuclear attack? That destroyed communication lines? To answer that threat, the U.S. government created ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency. Its mission was bold: to keep America ahead in technology. Out of this mission came a radical concept: computers connected in such a way that even if part of the system was destroyed, the rest would keep working. This decentralized design would eventually become the foundation of the internet. ARPANET, the first connection. At the time, computers were giant machines that operated in isolation. Sharing information was slow, clumsy, and often impossible. The dream was to link them together. The breakthrough came with packet switching. Instead of sending information as one fragile stream, data could be broken into smaller packets. Each packet traveled its own path across the network, and then was reassembled at the other end. If one route failed, packets simply found another. This made the network strong and nearly impossible to take down. In 1969, the first version of this idea came alive as ARPANET. 4 computers at UCLA, Stanford, UC Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah were linked. The first message sent was meant to say Logan. Instead, the system crashed after 2 letters. The first word ever transmitted online was just LO. A mistake, but also a prophecy. Lo and behold, the future had arrived. A common language. Through the 1970s, ARPANET expanded, connecting more universities and labs. But there was a challenge. Different networks used different rules. For a true internet to exist, computers needed to speak a common language. This problem was solved by Vinton Cerf and Robert Kahn, who invented TCP/IP Transmission Control Protocol Internet Protocol. These protocols became the grammar of the internet, allowing every machine to communicate smoothly. On January 1st, 1983, Flag Day, ARPANET officially switched to TCP/IP. That moment is often called the true birth of the modern internet. Soon after came the domain name system DNS. Before DNS, people had to remember strings of numbers to visit a site. With DNS, easy names like google.com or stanford.edu replaced those numbers. Without DNS, the internet would be a confusing jungle of digits. Hidden heroes and overlooked voices. The early history of the internet is often told as the story of white male pioneers, and it is true that they were the majority. But the picture is not complete without other voices. One example is Radia Perlman, often called the mother of the internet. In the 1980s, she invented the spanning tree protocol STP, which made networks stable and efficient. Her work is still used in the backbone of the internet today. And what about the larger workforce? For decades, Women and people of color were underrepresented in computer science and tech. Even now, diversity remains a challenge. According to a 2023 U.S. Census Bureau report, about 68% of computer and mathematical workers were male, while 61% were white, 20% Asian, 9% Hispanic or Latino, and 8% Black or African American. Another 2023 report added more context. Women today make up about 35% of the U.S. tech workforce overall, noticeable improvement from the early 2000s, but still far from equality. Asians, while fairly well represented in technical jobs, around 20%, are underrepresented in leadership positions, showing that inclusion is not just about hiring, but also advancement. These numbers remind us that while the internet connects the world, the people building it have not always reflected the world's full diversity. From government to the people. In the 1980s, the internet was still mainly for scientists, students, and the military. Commercial use was restricted. That changed in the early 1990s, when the National Science Foundation lifted its ban on commercial traffic. Businesses, entrepreneurs, and ordinary citizens rushed in. Internet service providers, ISPs, opened. Companies built websites, and money poured into this new digital frontier. This decision set off the dot-com boom of the 1990s, when thousands of startups tried to make their fortune online. Not all survived, but the internet was never the same. The World Wide Web. Even then, the internet was still clumsy for the average person. That changed in 1991 when British scientist Tim Berners-Lee introduced the World Wide Web. He created web pages, hyperlinks, and browsers, the tools that allowed anyone to click, explore, and learn without needing to understand complex code. The internet was no longer a hidden tool for experts. It was open to the public, ready to transform everyday life. From Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, the first generation of the web, now called Web 1.0, was static. You could read information, but not contribute much. By the early 2000s, the shift to Web 2.0 arrived. Suddenly, the web became interactive. People could write blogs, edit wikis, and join social networks. Web 2.0 made the internet social. Platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter allowed ordinary people to publish their thoughts, videos, and ideas for the whole world to see. It was no longer just a library of information. It became a giant conversation. Two sides of the same coin. The internet has changed nearly every part of modern life: education, business, politics, entertainment, and family life. It allows instant communication across the planet. It spreads knowledge, sparks creativity, and fuels movements for justice. But it also carries risks. It spreads misinformation as easily as truth. It can divide as well as unite. It creates opportunity while also creating inequality. Like every powerful invention, it mirrors the best and worst of human nature. Conclusion: from LO to limitless. The internet was born from Cold War fears, but grew into a tool of human connection. From ARPANET to TCP/IP, from DNS to the World Wide Web, from government labs to living rooms worldwide, it became the greatest communication system in history. The first message ever sent was only 2 letters, LO. Today, billions of messages flash across the globe every second. That tiny word was the seed of a revolution still unfolding. The internet is not just code and cables. It is the story of humanity's drive to share, to connect, and to create. From LO to limitless, that is the story of how the internet was invented.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Deafening. Definition: a sound that is extremely loud. So loud that it almost feels like it could damage hearing. Example: the cheering crowd in the stadium was so deafening that I could hardly hear my friend speaking next to me. 2. Decentralized design. Definition: a system in which power, control, or responsibility is spread across many parts, instead of being controlled by a single central point. This makes the system stronger and less likely to fail if one part is damaged. Example: the internet was built on a decentralized design so that communication could continue. even if one section of the network was destroyed. 3. Packet switching. Definition: a method of sending information by breaking it into small units, called packets, which travel separately across a network and then rejoin at their destination. Example: thanks to packet switching, an email can reach its receiver quickly, even if some parts of the network are busy or blocked. 4. Take down. Definition: to remove, destroy, or disable something, often by force or deliberate action. Example: the government worked hard to take down illegal websites that spread dangerous information. 5. Inclusion. Definition: the practice of ensuring that all people, regardless of background, race, gender, or ability, are welcomed and given equal opportunities. Example: the school promoted inclusion by supporting students of different cultures and encouraging them to share their traditions.
Comprehension questions. 1. What global event inspired the creation of ARPA in the United States? Answer: the launch of Sputnik by the Soviet Union in 1957 during the Cold War inspired the US to create ARPA. 2. Why did US leaders worry about communication systems during the Cold War? Answer: they feared that a nuclear attack could destroy centralized communication systems, leaving the country unable to respond. 3. What was the central design philosophy of ARPANET that made it resilient? Answer: decentralization, so that even if one part of the network was destroyed, the rest could still function. 4. What is packet switching, and why was it important? Answer: packet switching breaks data into smaller packets that can travel separately across a network and reassemble at the destination. It made networks flexible and hard to disrupt. 5. What was the first word ever sent over ARPANET, and why was it incomplete? Answer: the word was low. The system crashed before the full word login could be transmitted. 6. Who developed TCP/IP, and why was it important? Answer: Vinton Cerf and Robert Kahn developed TCP/IP, which became the universal language that allowed all computers to communicate on the Internet. 7. What role does the domain name system DNS play in the Internet? Answer: DNS translates human-friendly names like google.com into numerical IP addresses, making it easier to use the Internet. 8. Who is Radia Perlman, and what was her contribution to Internet technology? Answer: Radia Perlman, known as the mother of the Internet, invented the Spanning Tree Protocol SDP, which keeps networks stable and efficient. 9. According to the 2023 Census Bureau report, what percentage of computer and mathematical workers were male? Answer: about 68%. 10. What percentage of the US tech workforce in 2023 was made up of women? Answer: about 35%, showing improvement from the early 2000s, but still reflecting a gender gap. 11. How are Asians represented in the US tech workforce, and what challenge remains for them? Answer: Asians make up about 20% of the tech workforce, but they are underrepresented in leadership positions. 12. When did the National Science Foundation lift its ban on commercial use of the Internet, and why was this significant? Answer: in the early 1990s. This allowed businesses and the public to use the Internet, sparking the dot-com boom. 13. Who invented the World Wide Web, and what did it add to the Internet? Answer: Tim Berners-Lee invented it in 1991, creating web pages, hyperlinks, and browsers that made the Internet easy for ordinary people to use. 14. What is the difference between Web 1.0 and Web 2.0? Answer: Web 1.0 was static and mostly read-only, while Web 2.0 allowed interactive, user-generated content, like blogs, wikis, and social media. 15. What was the very first message sent over the Internet, and how does it symbolize the Internet's history? Answer: low. Though accidental, it symbolized the beginning of a communication revolution, from low to limitless.